we have them here also today with us at this round table. So we can actually, let's say, divide them into three different types. Like the first one would be that they are connected by some common concept, like our host of today's CU event, that they were connected by the sea region, actually. So also the focus being on the marine studies. But then there is also an EU Connexus alliance that is, let's say, based on the urban coastlines concept. We also have some alliances related to some health issues like global health or well-being in general. Then we also have a very interesting space-oriented alliance, and also one that is particularly close to my background being linguistics, so like a concept of Romance languages that bring the universities together. Then there is another, let's say, concept that the university decided that they will be joined by the same or similar type of universities. For instance, we have a film or media related universities or art universities, or we also have a few alliances that are comprised of technology-only university. But we also have an alliance that is constituted of reform universities. So that's also a very interesting concept. So as you can see, there are just a few examples of a wide variety and diversity of the alliances that have been created. But then, of course, there is a big group of the alliances, like my alliance that I represent, that is comprised of different types of universities and different ideas that have been joined together. So my university, the UNI, stands for European University for Customized Education. And as you can see on this next slide, we have a very well-balanced, geographical balance, which is, of course, something that the Commission really values in creation of these alliances. So up north, we have a partner in Finland. This is University of Vaasa. And then to the south, we have University of Catania, our oldest and biggest university, which dates back to the 15th century. Then in Spain, we have a partner situated in Santander, Universidad de Cantabria, and then University of Mons in Belgium, Université Polytechnique Hauts-de-France, and then two technology universities, one of them being located in Cottbus, in Germany, very close to the Polish border, and then in Poland, the university I represent, this is Poznań University of Technology. And we are actually the only Polish leader of such an alliance in the EU currently. Next slide, please. So what actually brought us together? What are the features that we have in common? What I can say is for sure that we are located in medium-sized cities. We are regional universities, and we tend to believe that in the cities, we have a high quality of life. Each of our university plays a kind of a significant role in its social environment, also due to the fact that we are located in a territory in transition. So we also believe that we have this adaptability to change, but I always say that this is subject to the fact that we are a public institution. So this is kind of limited, I would say, but still, this is how we approach this alliance. Next slide, please. So at the very beginning, as a foundation of our alliance, we have made an extensive research of market needs, but also we have made some analysis, some SWOT analysis of each and every university that constitute our alliance. And we have come up with some of the 4 areas we believe that are of importance to us, that we feel strong in. and we want to base our educational offer mostly in these areas. So these areas are smart cities, healthcare, transport and mobility, and environment and energy. So the idea is, of course, to co-create the courses, co-create the programs, also in relation to the sustainable development goals, in order to enhance not only physical mobility, but also, of course, virtual mobility right now. And as we all know, the Commission has set up a very, very ambitious threshold for us to 50% of the mobility right now. So to conclude, I would say that we are at the final stage of creating a UNIS recognition, a UNIS label for our students, that they will be able to receive it once they complete certain criteria. So thank you very much for this part, and back to you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Magda, for that very clear information about the UNIS European University. Next up is Antoine Dussette, who is the Vice President for EU Connexus in La Rochelle University in France. And he is here to represent, obviously, the EU Connexus Alliance. You have the floor, Antoine. Antoine is asking for a few minutes, so perhaps we could swiftly change the order, if that's okay. And we'll move straight on to Film EU, and I will ask Ronan Omurti. I'm sorry if I've destroyed your name and pronounced it wrongly, which I'm sure I have. Ronan is the head of faculty of the Film Art and Creative Technologies and a member of the Film EU Management Board. So over to you, Ronan, and then we'll go back to Antoine afterwards. Thank you.
No problem. And yes, my name is Ronan Omurti, and anecdotally, I mispronounced my own name during my wedding vows, so it happens all the time to me, unfortunately. So no problem. Thank you very much for everyone for the invitation. Yes, my name is Ronan, as I said. I'm a head of faculty here, well, in Ireland, in the Institute of Art, Design and Technology, and we're one of 4 institutions that are part of Film EU. Perhaps you might go on the slide there. Yeah, just the next slide there, please. So just Film EU, I'm obviously not going to go into any great detail about who we are and what we're about, but very essentially, we're very much focused on the film and media arts. So it's 4 schools that have come together. Lusófona in Portugal, we're very ably led by Professor Manuel Damasio, who's there. Some of you may know him. Lucas School of Arts in Brussels, ourselves, and then the Baltic Film and Media School in Estonia, who recently joined. Originally, we were 6 members up to about 2 weeks before submission, and then it turned into 4 for various different reasons. And initially, we thought, gosh, we'll never get in with 4 members, but then we were lucky enough to be chosen. And I think this goes to the heart of one of the reasons why I think we have been successful and we feel we're being successful is that we have a very clear story to tell. It's interesting looking at all the 41 different alliances and sort of the coalescing that they have done. We have focused very much on a particular thematic area with a very clear focus. And actually, what you'll see from our story is that we've been working together for quite some time. All of us as partners and other partners have worked together on different joint master's programs and going back to at least 15 years of working together in some capacity. So we have a very clear narrative, I suppose, around who we are and what we're trying to do. So if you could go on to the next slide then. For me, this is a kind of a billboard that's outside our school. The tangible and intangible benefits, I suppose, that we have found from it all in trying to kind of build our story, as I keep referring to it, is it gives us that clarity of identity, that clarity of focus, and that clarity of message. And especially in terms of as we're trying to build something, that we're very much focused on the creative industries, particularly screen industries in its broadest sense. but there seems to be a zeitgeist around it as well at the moment, which allows us to very much leverage that at the moment. This is not to say that it's better or worse than anything else, but it's where our experience seems to be lending itself quite well. And that in so doing, when we're approaching things like developing new programs or developing pedagogical approaches, we're all facing the same struggles around QA and sort of the building the structures of a university, but always we speak the same language of film, if you like, and we teach in the same way. We're all very much focused on practice-based learning and teaching, so that there's a lot of shared elements that allow us to work together quite closely. And one of the fringe benefits of being small, of having 4 partners, though, that puts a lot more work on each of us. As now we look towards enlargement, and we're building our membership with a very clear idea of where we're going, and indeed able to speak to partners about what it is we hope to do into the future. And that's something that is, again, working very well for us. It has a real strategic value for us as an institute in Ireland who are looking to build international capacity. But generally, it's proven very, very, very fruitful for all of us in so many different ways. And I think it's that marrying of the creative industries plus that clarity of who we're trying to be that really seems to be having an impact in terms of even our discussions about our PO and so on and so forth. Film is one of those kind of universal things that everyone feels they have a stake in and can talk about, and that's been very, very helpful. Whether it's good or bad or indifferent, we will see as we move into the next phases of development. But so far, so good. It's been fascinating and enriching for all of us, I think, in terms of learning from each other along the way. So that's me. Perhaps, yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'd be delighted to take them at the end.
Thank you very much, Ronan. I think quite a lot to pick up on there for the discussion later. Antoine, would you like us to go with you now, or should we move forward and leave you for the end?
Yes, I'm ready. Sorry, I didn't realize I was next. I didn't see your message. And I was actually moving to a more quiet place exactly in the moment when you gave me the floor. Sorry about that. I will try to be a bit faster since I wasted a bit of time with my whereabouts. Can you hear me well? Okay. So I will tell you about EU Connexus, which was very clearly introduced by Magdalena. We are a European university that is focused on smart urban coastal sustainability. So you might wonder what that is, and I will say a bit more in the next few slides. If you can move, yeah. So it's a thematic focus. We are focused on the question of smart urban coastal sustainability, which is essentially interdisciplinary. I will say a bit more in a moment. But this has an impact. This implies, I mean, the thematic focus somewhat implies that we have a geographical focus because, of course, to get support from our local institutions, regions, cities, departments, and also countries, actually nations. Well, it tends to be easier in locations where you are next to the sea, and our focus to coastal cities implies that most of our universities are by the sea, and we are actually covering all the seas and oceans of continental Europe. And our partners, most of our partners are by the sea, and I will list them briefly thanks to the next slide. If you could switch slides, sorry. So I forgot to mention that the coordinator of the project, which I'm representing, is La Rochelle University. And we also have, well, maybe I don't need to list them all, but we have partners in Spain, Romania, Greece, Lithuania, and Croatia. And recently, we have added 3 associated partners, so we'll become full partners, hopefully starting in September, if the renewal of a university is accepted, because we were one of the 17 first universities of the first cohort, so we are now in the renewal process. And I will tell you a bit more about the way the university was constructed, because that's actually the focus of the talk with the next and last slide. You can see the focus was always very clear. The thematic focus was always very clear, and it was kind of the way that the alliance was built. So we built the alliance in circles only with partners who are interested in this smart urban coastal sustainability specialization. I should explain that this is something that has interdisciplinarity at its core. Smart urban coastal sustainability is a very long, I will say SMUCS from now on to replace this very long sequence, but the idea is to work on the societal and economical problems related to having cities by the sea, knowing that lots and more people are moving to the seaside, more and more people are moving to cities. So this double effect has a strong impact in coastal areas that are very fragile in terms of environment. And we focus on sustainability, and we do this with smart methods, implying many tools, such as, of course, artificial intelligence and computer science, but not only. So the idea is to gather strengths to get more, instead of having a small university, have a larger university now with over 60,000 students, focused on this specialization. So we want to add the specialization. We want to add the critical mass to the specialization and be a visible expert on this topic. And we're gathering complementary skills for these specializations with universities with different backgrounds, different focuses. We have some universities. I mean, Waterford in Ireland is a technological university, and we have private partners in Cyprus and Valencia, and we have people who are more specialized in humanities like Zada, and all of them are contributing to the same goal in an integrative approach, where our goal is to involve everyone in every university, so all faculties and all staff, around this common objective of smart urban coastal sustainability. So for humanities, it means address questions that have an impact in this context. And it's covering all the missions of a university, so education, research, and actually all the other activities that we lead in universities. And the main goal is to become actually this integration goes as far as integratively that our goal is to become a campus with many sites, with 9 sites, and a unique university instead of 9 partners. And I'm happy to answer questions in a while. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antoine. I think we're certainly starting to see models with differences, but also with certain similarities between them in the different alliances. Our next speaker is Daniela Trani, who is the director of the UFE Alliance based in Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Daniela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to Laura and to the colleagues from CEU, and congratulations for this event that is already extremely interesting. Like Laura said, I'm here to bring in the perspective from the Young Universities for the Future of Europe, a European universities initiative that is coordinated currently by Maastricht University for what attains the seminal project that was funded in 2019. But I would also like to stress, Laura, that in our alliance, other partners have taken on coordination of the other projects that we have running, because the alliance is built really on sharing responsibilities, sharing also the joy that comes from the achievements, as well as the work to overcome the challenges. So in this short presentation, I will try to reflect on elements that hopefully will also address the points that you, Laura, raised at the beginning. So our vision as the European Universities Alliance has been since the very beginning to develop what we hope will be one of the leading models of European universities. And our model is one that is student-centered, egalitarian, open, and inclusive. Also, when it comes to cultural dimension, this means that the values that have brought us together and that have brought the alliance to the results we have achieved so far are several and important. And amongst these values, there is diversity, inclusivity, and openness to the world, openness to the different cultures, openness to each other. Because we want to build a European university that is not only of great quality and highly relevant for the students and for the academic communities, but also has a high societal impact. The university partners, since the beginning, have also partnered with the non-academic organizations. And our alliance has been supported since the start by local governments and regional governments. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. So going back to one of the questions, how is the composition of our alliance serving the overall aim? Well, we want to have a European impact, or we want to build a European university that is relevant for the entire Europe, that helps, contributes to strengthen cohesion, but also lifts all boats, increases quality of education, of research, of innovation across the entire EU. So our partners are currently 10 universities from as many member states. All of these are full partners. And the first phase has seen also 4 non-academic organizations as associated partners. The configuration of the alliance will change partly in the next phase if, like also Antoine stressed, our alliance will receive follow-up funding. This we should hear hopefully in the middle of the summer this year, and covers 11 countries. Some universities have campuses in more than 1 city, so we encompass 15 cities. And the contribution of the municipality has been continuous. They are also involved in activities that we have built for students and for staff, and that students from across Europe are taking part too. Next slide, please. What are the values and what are the elements we have been building the alliance on? How did we come together as an alliance? So one important element at the very beginning was the prior collaboration between some of the partners in the network of the Young European Research Universities, YERUN, which I am sure most of you will be familiar with. Some of the partners that took part in the alliance since the beginning were not members, some have joined. So what YERUN later on, although we are two separate entities and UFE and YERUN shouldn't be confused, I know that sometimes it happens, as young European, young research universities and young research intensive universities, we also want to contribute to fostering the dialogue between institutions that have a similar profile, but also beyond the network of young research intensive universities. Our partners are complementary, but at the same time are all student-centered. They are very international, or they strive to acquire a more international profile, and have proven all along to have a strong mutual trust in each other and be open to learn from each other. After all, European universities should be the place where institutions across Europe bring their complementary strengths, and together they build something of even higher value, not only for our students and staff in Europe, but also models that can be leading ones globally. What we are trying to achieve is to create an ecosystem where students, researchers, but also professional staff can work seamlessly across countries. And this also involves then the readiness and willingness to change from our partners. This is a very important prerequisite to embark in the journey of our alliance. Last but not least, the core value is that humans, people are central. So students and staff have been and will always be central to everything we do in INFO. Next slide, please. One last element I would like to reiterate is that we began this journey with one project from the European Universities Initiative pilot funded in 2019. We were lucky enough to receive additional funding from different programs, And we are now moving from an organization and a management structure that is project-based to one that is much more coherent, and it's strategically built on what we call the youth pillars that we have formulated recently, and that represent also the foundation of our vision and strategy towards what youth will become in 2030. Currently, I would like also to emphasize that we already have in our programs more than 500 students enrolled, already about 300 alumni. They are participants or students, learners that have taken part to different kinds of pilots within the pilot. And something similar happens then for the activities for the staff. And what we do is to really collect from the students feedback on what we are doing. And the same we do also from staff to ensure that there is a continuous dialogue, and that the European University we will build is co-created with the students, with the staff, as well as from with the local ecosystems and with the business. So with this, I would give you the word back, Laura, and I will be happy to take any questions that you and the audience might have.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm hoping that we will not only be taking questions, but also asking each other questions in the final part. But before we get there, last but by no means least, we have the presentation from the CU Alliance, and I'd like to give the floor to Fidel Echevarria, the General Coordinator of CU.
Thank you, Laura. And good afternoon to everybody. And I would like to begin expressing my gratitude to all of you, to all these 4 alliances together with us this afternoon. For us, it is a very good occasion to have a more panoramic view about the different typologies of alliances within these 41 alliances that are alive now in Europe. So thank you, Magdalena, thank you, Roman, thank you, Antoine, and thank you, Daniela, for your input and your participation in this roundtable. So we here in this first slide, the geographical setup of our alliance with the 6 founders universities in blue. You can see there Cardiff University as the coordinating university of our alliance, then Brest, then Kiel, Dansk, Split, and Malta. And finally, we are expecting, of course, the results of the evaluation of our second phase. We're expecting it, as you know, for next 27th of July. But if we obtain this new phase of the alliance, we will be 3 universities more, with Partenope in Naples, Algarve in Portugal, and North University in Norway. So geographical balance, as you can see, with also a well distribution in terms of oceanographic basins, which is something important in our alliance, with 3 universities in the Mediterranean, 3 in the Atlantic, and 3 in the, we can say, northern seas, including the Baltic and the Arctic. So the next slide presents some of our characteristics, but the first message is that we have an advantage at this round table, because we have just presented in the last 2 hours a resume of our achievements and main results. So we have had the opportunity to give the audience a panoramic about our main results, our main achievements. But the main messages are: we are an alliance of 6 that will become 9 in short if we are successful in this call, with a good geographical balance. The only European university centered in the ocean, although we have our colleagues from Connexus, which are also coastal universities. We are a group of universities of medium size. Excuse me, Irene, could you? Yeah, here. and coastal universities, of course. This vocation of marine and maritime science makes that we are all in the coast. We are in the periphery as a consequence of this. And also, with the exception of the University of Malta, which is the only university in the country, no other university of CEU is located in the capital of its country. So I don't know if it is a good translation, but we can say we are all provincial universities, at least not in the capital of our countries. The next one, please. So the question about, and given the protagonism of the ocean in our alliance, can be CEU considered a thematic alliance, only looking at the ocean, at the marine and maritime aspects? In my opinion, the answer is no. We are not a thematic alliance, we are a generalist alliance. Our aim is to link the participating universities as a whole with all their faculties, skills, and specialization. So we want to join the whole universities within our alliance. Of course, the sea is very important. The sea gives our alliance its own stamp. The sea is the point of reference for all our universities. And it is true that all our universities are characterized by their commitment to the study of marine environment, with the sea being a hallmark of both teaching and research. This is the true for the 6 pioneering universities and also for the 3 new ones. And even the search for new partners was done respecting this basic principle of the profile of a CEU university. So the last slide with the main remarks. We are strong really in marine and maritime sciences. The sea is our identity. Many of the pilot programs during this first phase of the alliance have dealt with marine maritime issues. I can give an example with a oceanographic cruise we have done in the last month and a half, which with a ship belonging to the University of Dansk, that the departure was in the Dansk port, and it arrived to Cadiz 4 days ago, and we have had several activities here as an example of a pilot program related, of course, with the sea. But our vocation is to converge with the other partner universities in all the topics we work on together, and not only on marine topics. So in short, we are a generalist alliance where the sea is our context and marine studies our competitive advantage. And that's all. This is all for this presentation. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Fidel. So now we've learned a little more about all 5 alliances, and I'd like to open the floor for questions and debate. We don't have any questions in the chat, so if you will permit me, I'd like to pick up on one point, something that personally I've always found very interesting to learn more about, and that is the fact that within these different alliances, who are all, as we've said, working towards the same goals set for us by the European Commission when we applied to be alliances. And yet we've heard from Ronan, for example, in Film EU, that the 4 universities in the alliance had already been working together for 15 years. And we've heard from Daniela that many of the universities in UFE had been working together in Jerun, not all of them, but many of them already knew each other quite well through an association of universities. In the case of CEU, some of the partners had worked with each other previously, but many of us had no previous connection or no previous history of collaboration between us. And I wonder how important you think it's been to your alliances to work towards those goals from the starting point that you were at the beginning. I don't know if those of you that had worked together can imagine what it would have been like, and maybe what it will be like as you expand your alliances, bringing in people that don't have that knowledge of each other. and how those of you like us that are working with new partners, what that has meant for working towards our common goals and shared objectives. So I don't know, Daniela, you've unmuted yourself. Does that mean you're going to take the floor?
I can, sure, I can break the ice on this very interesting question, Laura. I think what we have observed, 7 out of the 10 partner universities that have built UFE since the beginning had been working together within YERO. However, the range of the portfolio of this collaboration, the depth was very different from the one we have achieved in UFE. So what we could say is that the fact that there were positive experiences, that they knew each other as very committed partners, has really kind of helped planting the seed of UFE together. But we immediately could also experience what it means to bring new partners in a circle of friends that already exists. And I have to say, for example, with the University of Cyprus, Rijeka and Torun, they have been amazing partners that have caught up in the collaboration very quickly. So it doesn't feel almost like the others had already been working together previously, because they were all like-minded. So all the universities realized that coming together in the Youth Alliance meant that an amount of commitment and work was necessary to achieve the goals, and they all have had that. But of course, the knowledge that has been built in the YERO network of each other, but also some bilateral collaborations that existed, for example, between the University of Cyprus and the University of Essex, or the University of Torun and Maastricht University, has really contributed to get them even more quickly integrated in the Alliance.
Well, thank you, Daniela. That was very interesting. Ronan, you've raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I suppose it's hard to kind of, for me to imagine not having been working with these partners before, but certainly I feel like it really helped in terms of cutting through a lot of the issues that you kind of get up to speed with partners on different kinds of things. And certainly us being small as well has kind of helped in terms of there's fewer voices in the room, so to speak. But I can see how, you know, there's lots of new people who've come into it. I mean, FilmEU, the EU Universities project, is much bigger than anything else I'm sure any of us have really tried. So that, you know, you're constantly trying to integrate new people. And yes, we're already speaking to new partners about, we're in the second wave, so we're slightly behind that, but we're speaking to new partners about joining. As we speak, we should have that sort of boxed off, so to speak, by the end of the summer. And what has always struck me when I've sort of been talking to Manuel about this is that the EU universities has always felt like the natural extension or evolution, if you like, of the work that we've been doing. That it's, if you like, providing the housing for the joint master's programs we've done. I know Daniela spoke about sort of the alumni that UFE now have. You can see that, you know, sort of bringing everyone together. And for me, that's one of the most important things, is ensuring that there are students. We're in the business of educating young people primarily, but people of all ages. And while it's not a business, I don't mean it like that, but, you know, it's important that remains our focus. That, and things like joint BAs and these kinds of things are again, I think important things we should be striving for, and are a lot easier than harmonization. I don't know if anyone's tried harmonization. Anytime we look at harmonization, it makes my head spin. So new things are easier to do than try to align the old.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ronan. It's certainly perhaps the idea that as we bring new partners in who weren't as involved with us before, it's also a way of trying out a new model as we spread it around the higher education area, which is one of the things that we're asked to do, serve as models. By bringing new members into our alliances, we're also in a way testing out the way that we work and seeing if new people are able to adapt to that. I don't know if Antoine or Magda, or Magda, yes, and now I can see your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. So just to comment, yeah, so for instance, contrary to UFA and FilmEU, we didn't have any structured cooperation prior to creating the alliance. But of course, we did have some cooperation within Erasmus and within different projects, but they were not held among all the partners. There were like some dual partnerships and different configurations. And also what Ronan said, that we are also from 2020 Alliance, so the second wave, a little bit behind. So we have also been working only a year and a half together in the Alliance. So that's a process to build a trust, to learn each other in a sense. So that's a long way, I think. But I've heard an interesting statement in the morning session, which clearly relates to this idea we are discussing right now. I believe the Vice Rector of Malta University said in the morning that universities within our alliances cooperate much stronger among each other than the national universities right now. So that means that we are building more and more trust among each other, and that this cooperation is tighter and stronger in a long run. So that's the future, and that's I think also in terms of the global perspective, that our universities, our European university alliances, will be able, hopefully, to compete also globally in other universities outside of EU. So that's also once we will build the stronger alliances we will build, the better will be also seen and viewed globally.
Thank you, Magda. That comment that you referred to was something that was also mentioned yesterday by our rector, who said that he has more contact with the rectors of the CU Alliance than he does with the rectors of the other Spanish universities, and that's something that I think was shared by the other rectors in the group, and that is, as you say, a very important point. Fidel, you've had your hand up waiting patiently for a while, and then Ronan is going to take the floor again.
Yes, a brief message just to answer your question from the point of view of CU. Well, we are an example of an alliance in which the previous relation was very poor. We had some bilateral connections, but mainly we were universities without a previous experience. So it means, for example, we had not, in most of the cases, we had not Erasmus agreements with some of the universities. So, for example, it means that during this first phase of the alliance, during this first project, we have done a big effort and even we had a work package to for example, and it was managed by the University of Dansk, and it was to make a database of our infrastructures, for example, or our research groups. So we have invested a lot of effort to know better each other, and I am sure that now for the second phase we are much better prepared to go ahead with a lot of our commitments and objectives.
Thank you, Fidel. Ronan, you wanted to take the floor again, and then I see Antoine has raised his hand, so I'll give you the floor after.
Well, sorry, I don't know if Antoine wants to come in first. I as much have a question as anything else. It's curious to me that from a national perspective in Ireland as well, and I share that experience where that I have more engagement with our European partners than some national partners, but it strikes me that there's an increasing sort of homogenization of education generally. Maybe this is just an observation, it's not very scientific, but certainly in Ireland, there's been a lot of mergers of institutions in an effort to rationalize the the sector, and it's important that happens. But in so doing, you find it's more difficult for institutions to find that identity. And I think what's interesting to me, hearing all the presentations and from looking at this project, if you like, a lot of groupings have been trying to find an identity, a USP, for want of a better phrase. And I'm wondering, is that something that people feel is important?
Okay, thank you. Antoine, you were waiting to speak. I don't know if what you're going to say would speak to Ronan's point, or maybe you could add something on at the end, and then we'll give Daniela the floor, and then we have a question in the chat that I would like you all to address. So, Antoine.
Yeah, it was more about the previous question, but it relates to actually what Ronan said. I think in our case, I mentioned in the talk, but I didn't explain that we built ourselves into circles. So it was one partner. I mean, it started from La Rochelle, and we had contacts with bilateral contacts, and in one case trilateral contacts with 3 or 4 partners. And then we asked the other partners, who are the other partners who you think would be trustable and interested in this topic? And then it's very exaggerated. We kind of auditioned them to be sure we had a common understanding, because we really started from the specialization. Saying audition, of course, is very exaggerated, but we wanted to really be sure before we proceed with any further discussion, and before we let the university be introduced in the governing board, that we had very clearly common goals in terms of specialization and in terms of integration. And I want to also support, I don't remember who said this, but in Connexus it's true, we have small, I mean, especially in Connexus, we have small universities. I think only one of them has more than 10,000 students. So it also means we are more flexible in practice. It's easier to change direction. It's easier to get the board on board or to get the key people on board, because it's and also to get the people in to get every colleague and every student on board, because simply I barely exaggerate when I say we all know each other. So it helps a lot to convince people and to talk with them about the change of direction and the focus on these European goals. Yeah, and that's it. Maybe I don't want to take the floor any longer, and let's move to other questions.
Okay, thank you, Antoine. Yes, size of the universities is important, as you say. That the bigger the institution, the harder it is to get change implemented. Daniela, if you'd like to take the floor, and then we'll move on to the question in the chat.
So I wanted to also respond or pick up on the comment from Ronan regarding collaboration with the national universities, because I think we observe the same in the alliance. In some countries there is more collaboration, but in general, the other universities, national universities, are perceived as competitors, or the partners are perceived as competitors nationally. And I think this depends also on the way national governments move about the assignment of funding. And for now, at European level, there is not such a system. So it's some kind of neutral ground where universities and other partners can come together, experiment, innovate. So where there is the right ground for collaboration. It's not yet, I would hope that also doesn't get contaminated in a way that we go from collaboration to internal competition, because that's what we have witnessed nationally. So I think this is an important point and something not to take for granted, because the scenario, the landscape might change. What can European Commission do with the member states to increase a collaborative spirit nationally and not to have this competition coming about also at European level? I think it's not trivial, of course, but it's something to really reflect upon with universities, also with the innovation ecosystem, with everyone that is involved in the knowledge chain. And then, Laura, I would like to, if you allow me, give my perspective on the question that was asked in the chat. It's a very good one. And I think the main three challenges that I can think of. The biggest one is, of course, capacity and funding, not because we want more money, but because what we have set ourselves to achieve is really something major. And if you don't have capacity, then you also do not communicate sufficiently within the alliance, within the institutions. And this poorly reflects on the engagement that Antoine was referring to of internal stakeholders, be these lecturers, professional services, students. Let's not forget that if European universities stays a top-down initiative, will never trickle down and will never become structural. So there is a struggle between the ambitions and the tools that are available. And a second one is also the struggle between the eagerness to transform, innovate together, and the identity of each university, and the local constraints and the national traditions that also have to be taken into account. So what the colleague Levi asked in the chat is, what did you do? Well, within UFE, we try to be creative with the capacity and funding, and to really ensure that there is a support at the executive level, that UFE is not only something that a couple of people do in the university. It has to be a strategic priority at the university level. So this is something that the executives and the managers, the institutional coordinators, or the key players internally with all the faculties work on. And the second, when I was talking about identity and transformation, innovating who we are and staying also true to ourselves as individual institutions, it's really important to be respectful of each other, and that partners listen to each other, that they identify what are the priorities, what is that we want to innovate on together, and what every partner needs to continue consolidating or further developing, also with the support of the alliance.
Thank you, Daniela. I think you've made some very, very interesting points there. Within each alliance, each institution may be traveling at a different speed, and we need to respect that and support each other. Before opening the floor, we have very little time left. I'd just like to mention that the question that has been put in the chat by Levi, he is from the university, from Nord University, one of the new partners that we will be welcoming into CU for the second phase. So for us, it's very interesting to see that question and to hear your answers. Maybe we'll pick up some tips that will help us to include the three new partners in the alliance. Magda, you've asked for the floor. We have a couple of minutes left, so if you could maybe keep it short so that we can,
yes.
I can give a final opportunity if anyone else would like to add anything after your contribution. Thank you.
Sure, I try to be as brief as possible. So I would just add to what Daniela said, that one of the biggest challenges is actually build this real partnership, the real common structure of our university to build the real universities. Because for the time being, we are just different universities cooperating together. But how to really build this strategic partnership, how to get us together and really build this real partnership in the future. It's about the structure, about the governance model, how we see it in 10 and 20 years. So this is something that needs to be sustainable. And I think this is one of the most challenging partners. And it also relates to the fact that we also think about the extension. We are advanced in this process as well. So this has to be also a very careful selection and process to get new partners on board. And of course, another challenge that is ahead then is how to integrate the new partners into the existing alliance. Yeah. So the recipes, it's hard to say in a half a minute. But of course, I think face-to-face meetings is one of the way to build the mutual trust and the common partnership. But we were, of course, facing the COVID, which didn't help us. Let's hope now we will be able to do it in a way nicer and more convenient environment in the future.
Absolutely, yeah, Magda, you've mentioned something that I was going to mention as well, the fact that those of us, the alliances where we didn't have this deeper knowledge of each other, we never imagined that we would also have to get to know each other through a screen, and that did make it more difficult, and we cross our fingers that that will not be the case in the second phase, and that we will be able to speed up this process by having, as you say, face-to-face meetings, which are so important in really getting to know partners. Any final words before we bring this roundtable to a close? I think we maybe need to do another one in a year's time and see where we're all at after another year. But to close this one, would anyone like any final words? That's very good of you all to be looking at the time. So it's now at 1:30. We've been extremely punctual. Personally, I found it really interesting to hear all the experiences and points of view from all the alliances. And I would like to thank you all very much for dedicating the time to this. And I invite you back for another roundtable, as I say, maybe in a year's time, to see how far we've got. Fidel, I think, would like to say, our general coordinator would like to say a few final words, which seems extremely fitting to me. So, Fidel, the floor is yours to close.
Okay, thank you, Laura. It is just to thank you again for attending this roundtable and for your contribution, which is very important for us to receive a wider perspective about these alliances and this initiative of European universities. So thank you again. I want also to remember that probably with some of you we are meeting tomorrow at Brussels. We have an appointment there with the European Commission, and also that we have next week another appointment in Versailles with one workshop with a very similar focus than this roundtable. I think it was the title was "Diverse Models, Common Challenges." In this meeting of the French presidency of the Conseil of Europe. So again, thank you very much for you, Magdalena, Daniela, Roman, and Antoine. Thank you to all the attendees, and thank you to the people here in the room. Especially, we haven't said before, we have the rector of the University of Dansk and the rector of the University of Split, also the pro-rector of the University of Malta. So we have had during the last few days several activities related with our alliance, and they have been very well invited here and attending all the session during this morning. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.